everyone. Sorry, we're just a minute late because we kind of wanted a bit more audience. So welcome, good evening, and welcome to another CAHN Healthy Hearts session. For our new joiners, for those of us who are joining us newly, this is a session that we usually have every Tuesday, is where we come together to discuss nutrition topics about our health, and we also offer tips and guidelines on how to live a healthy lifestyle. In today's session, we will be talking about dietary challenges and what are we doing wrong. So yeah, it's a new year, and I know that you can't tell me that we haven't set goals for the year. I know we've all set goals for the year. We have career goals, fitness goals, and things like that. So now, when you think about what goal you've set for yourself, for your health goal, your personal goal, fitness goal, are you struggling with anything? Do you think there's any obstacle, or you're being challenged with something? Do you think and say, I think I'm having issues with my diet, or there's something wrong somewhere? So basically, that is the topic for today, dietary challenges. Very own Dr. Hibbah, who is a registered nutritionist. She's going to have a good discussion with us and talk us through the session. So please, wherever you're watching us from Facebook, YouTube, please don't hesitate to drop your questions, send in your questions, and it will be answered. Okay, Dr. Hibbah, over to you.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. Good evening, everyone. I'm usually on the other side of the chair. Today, I am going to do the talk. So it's not a lecture. What I have is, it's a discussion. I came with some slides, but I really want to get some engagement. And then towards the end, I can present bits and pieces based on research. So I'm just going to share my slides now. And then we can make a start. I have so many things opened. Slideshow. Sylvia, what can you see? Dietary challenges, right? Okay, thank you so much. Right, so why am I talking about dietary, or why are we going to discuss dietary challenges today? As Sylvia rightly said, we all tend to set goals for ourselves. We are all on a journey striving to have healthier diets, a healthier lifestyle. But I think it gets to a point we need to just step back and reflect on what we are already doing. What is it that we are not doing right? Sometimes we might know what we are not doing right. We just need a bit of support to do the right thing. But I think other times we are actually not very sure of what we are doing wrong. And so it's on this basis that I said, let's do a reflection. Let's look at our dietary behaviors and discuss some of the things we can make changes to as we start the new year. So as I said, I want it to be a discussion. So I'm just going to be asking a few questions. Please feel free to unmute yourself or put the response or whatever you're thinking in the chat box so that, it makes it a bit more interactive. So I just took random pictures. Some of them were pictures from people who were on the TLC challenge. Others, I don't know, it was on my phone, so it must have come from somewhere. So my question is, which of these 5 plates would you consider a healthy plate? So I have actually labeled them. So this is plate A. So this is plantain. This looks like spaghetti, sausage, chicken. This, for people who are not too familiar, it's a Ghanaian dish. I'm sorry, a lot of my examples tend to be Ghanaian stuff because I'm Ghanaian. So it's a Ghanaian sauce. I think it might be garden eggs. And this is salted tilapia, the fish here, a number of eggs with oil. This, again, another West African dish. So this is fufu with one of our soups and a number of fowls and meat And then this was just sent to me yesterday, someone who's trying to get me to monitor her meals. So this is just bread, as you can see, banana, jam. And then, yes, same person, 3 slices of pizza, banana, and a cup of coffee. Which of these is a healthy plate? If you think, you had to choose one of these, which one would you go for? If you can just put in the chat box, A, B, C, D, E, or F. That would be great. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize I had a few more here. So there's also this. So rice and stew with, this, I don't know whether this is fish. And then there's this, I think this is just Weetabix. Yes. So let's see what we have in the chat box. Okay, someone
Dr.
says,
Hibbah, I have a question.
Yeah.
So for the picture, the D picture, what's that beside the bread?
Is it not some cupcake? I think it's a cake.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a cupcake. Yeah. So someone says they'll go for A. There are a couple of us on the chat box. So yes, okay. Someone says the portions are not right for me. For a woman, okay. Then just says excess carbs, A, but A, D, or E, A, D, or F. Let's see what is in A, D, or A, C. No, I haven't understood this. A, C. So A is spaghetti. C is fufu. D is, banana. What else? F, pizza and banana. B, excess oil and protein. Okay. Someone says none of them. Right. Sylvia would go for D. Okay. Bread, cupcake, banana. Martha says, I would say none, but it would depend on how much you are eating. Okay. Thank you for those responses. I'll come back to this. I have another slide with other examples. So let's see. What about this? So what do we think? So this is someone's meal pattern for the day. So usually the person would have smoothies in the morning, salad in the afternoon, and chicken in the evening. Someone who's trying to lose weight. What do people think? Is this something you would describe as a healthy eating pattern? Is this a better option? I'm happy to hear any thoughts you have on this. Anyone at all? Okay, so someone says no carbs, so no. Any other thoughts? Yes, a portion of carbs at least. No, because each meal is not balanced. Thank you so much. Healthy Hearts must be doing something right because I'm getting a lot of good responses. Yes, smoothie has too much sugar. Salad is okay. Chicken is has too much sauce. Also, no carbs. I think I can actually end the lecture based on the responses I have. No, but I have a bit more. Okay, so now let's go back to a previous slide. What is wrong with A? For people who said no A, some people said they would go for A, so that's okay. For anyone who said they didn't want A or they would go for none of them, some people say, Salima says heavy meal at lunch, so it can be lost by working out. Okay, chicken is too much, right? Few people said none of the above. So I want to know what is wrong with plate A. Sylvia, yes. What is wrong with plate A?
So there are no vegetables.
Okay.
There's no vegetable, there's no fruit. The carb portion is too much.
For plate A?
For plate A, yeah. Okay.
All right. Is plantain a vegetable or not? Someone ever said that. Portion control too much. Salima, is that A you're also talking about? Are you referring to A when you say portion control is too much? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so portion is too much for A as well. Okay, thank you. What about B? Someone already said there was too much oil. What else? What are your thoughts on that? I think that is just sauce. And well, I should have provided a bit more context. I mean, it depends on how many people. Let's assume this is one person's dish. B and C, what do we think? Let's see what we have in the chat box. Carbs too much and no vegetable or protein. So that's still for A, okay. And then Adra says a sea of oil, too much protein. Thank you. How about D? Sylvia, you chose D. Okay, you will go for D. But yes, why would you choose D? Let me ask.
So even with D, it's still not healthy. But okay, so there's no protein.
There's no protein there.
No
okay.
Protein, yeah. It's I think out of everything, it's the first one that caught my eyes. It's the first. If I was to pick, if I had no choice, it would definitely be D. But still, there's no protein in D.
Okay. Thank you. How about E?
E again, the portion of rice, it should be 1 bowl of rice, not that much. Otherwise, it's a good meal.
Yes, I like that, Adjoa. Thank you, Salima. And Sylvia, Adjoa says, but the milk though, so there's milk. You said there's no protein, so you have to be specific about what you're saying.
Okay, so yeah, so well, even if I say animal protein now, she'll probably say, well, milk is from so Adjoa, there's no egg, there's no meat or fish, there's no animal protein, let me put it that way.
What if the person is a vegetarian? Vegetarians don't have to have a meat or egg or chicken or fish.
Can I say something?
Yes. Okay. Yes, please, Martha. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Is there a banana there?
Yeah, that's a banana line.
Right. So that's double carb, isn't it? You've got bread, you've got banana, and you've got a cake.
Yeah, and you have cake as well.
That's just too much.
Yeah. That's just too much carbs. That's just too much carbs.
And I mean, if that's a snack, that's not a meal.
Yeah.
So that would be a snack, and that's a way too much for a snack.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Martha. Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you. I think Adra says okay. All right. Now, having set the scene, let me throw this question out there again. So, yes, you've all identified what is wrong with those plates. Why is that important? Why is there so much emphasis? Why do we keep talking about, reducing the portion sizes, cutting down on animal protein? It seems like stuff we talk about every day, but I'm still trying to build onto something. So I would appreciate a bit of engagement. Any thoughts on why this is important?
It's got to be a balanced diet.
It's got to be a balanced diet, or else?
So it should include vegetables or fruits where appropriate, and some carbs and some protein. Exactly.
Now, someone would argue that, because I've had lots of people say, I can't take vegetables in the morning, but I can take it for dinner, so what about that? What is a consequence of not having vegetables at each meal?
Well,
you might not have your 5 a day. You need to think 5 a day.
You need to think 5 a day.
Or more than
or 5. More, at least
5 is the minimum.
Yes. I mean, in the morning, you can have avocado toast. That's one.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That recommendation of minimum of 5 a day is based on scientific evidence. The fact that once you are able to get that, it would prevent, it will help you prevent all these NCDs, non-communicable diseases, so we are trying to improve our health. We are trying to prevent diseases. And so for people who say, oh, I can't have vegetables in the morning, or I can only have vegetables during dinner, you're really eating way beyond the recommendation. And those recommendations are there for a reason, for a purpose. Statistics shows that in the UK, less than 1% of the population is able to follow that recommendation. Is that surprising? It's not, because if you look at the way we eat, people struggle to have vegetables with each meal. Okay. Thank you.
Can you not? I mean, if you don't have vegetables in the morning, you have fruits, because it's minimum 5 a day, fruit and vegetables.
It is, but a breakdown of that is actually 2 fruits and a minimum of 3 vegetables. Yes,
but you could have your fruits in the morning.
but even if you're not able to have it with a meal, are you planning to have it in between Yes. So we encourage it with each meal. But if you are not able to, you can always have it at another time. It's just that we want people to cultivate that habit and make sure that, because once you have it, vegetables with your meal, then you are able to cut down on the portions of the other stuff. I mean, that's if you practice it, you realize that once you have vegetables on your plate, then you get full easily, so you don't have to eat too much of our staples. So that's why we encourage people. But we realize that it might not be, you might not be able to have it with each meal. But even if you don't, just make time during the day to have it. So that 5 a day, the breakdown is 2 fruits and a minimum of 3 vegetables. Right. Let's see what I have in the chat box. Minimum of 5. So when we say 5 a day, we are referring to fruits and vegetables. Amatu. So the recommendation in the UK, other countries might be different. In the UK, the minimum recommendation for having fruits and vegetables is to have minimum of 5 portions. And portions, we'll have another session and demonstrate all of these. So 1 portion of banana could be 1 medium-sized banana, 1 orange. So if you're having 2 portions of fruits, that's what we are saying. Have like 1 banana, 1 orange, and then 3 portions of vegetables. So again, with all the vegetables, there are standards to estimate what 1 portion size is. Is that clear with the 5 portions I'm talking about? If you can just put yes. Okay. Now that question I asked about, why do you think it is important, or why is there so much emphasis on diet? So this is a graph I tend to use a lot when I'm teaching. So 1 second, I want to give you the reference because, yes, I want to show you what exactly the evidence is saying with regards to, I might have written it here. Let's see where this graph is coming from. I might have it here. 1 second, I might have to stop sharing for a minute and then I'll get back to it. So where's this graph from? Sylvia, have I stopped sharing? Can you still see my graph?
No, we can't see your graph.
Okay. So I'll just say this and then I'll share it again. So this is an analysis of the risk factors contributing to global deaths. I'll show it in a minute, but where did it come from? So it's a paper that was published in BMJ, so a very good journal. What it says is that global deaths by risk factors. Okay, let me show it again so you can see what I'm talking about. Yeah, so if you look at all the deaths we have in the world, so this analysis shows that the highest, contributors to death globally has to do with dietary factors. Well, this is a bit old. It was done in 2017, but trust me, this analysis wouldn't change much, even if it's done for 2022. So when we talk about dietary factors, it has to do with having low whole grains, low fruits, low nuts and seeds, high sodium intake, high salt intake, all of the things we talk about, high saturated fats, high trans fats, so all of those factors were put together, high intake of processed meat. And that was seen to contribute to the highest burden of diseases, of death, even as compared to high blood pressure, tobacco. They looked at all of that and they realized that when you put all of those unhealthy dietary behaviors together, the impact it has on death is more than a lot of these other things about. So even infections, chronic respiratory diseases and all of that. So the impact diet on healthy diet has, I know we know this, we talk about this all the time, but I just wanted to show you the evidence again. It's really huge. Is really, really huge. And that's why we can't stop talking about it, because it seems like very simple. It seems like an everyday thing, but the impact it has on our health and mortality, which is death, is just too much. Okay, so what do I want us to do? Yes, we've identified some of those mistakes. There's still a bit more that I want us to go through. Then I'll share some evidence, and some work that I did just to buttress the point I'm making about the mistakes we make. So what are our dietary patterns? What does it look like? And then if there is time, we'll just look at some tips on how to make sustainable lifestyle changes, which is something we talk about all the time. Okay, so I'm going to start with the evidence. So what is the evidence on the health of African migrants? Every Saturday, CAHN brings GPs and consultants to talk to us about our health. And each time it starts with the fact that Blacks and people of African origin and Caribbean origin have the highest risk when it comes to NCDs and a lot of diseases, okay? But this has to do with a specific group that I have studied. So a lot of the times my research focuses on Ghanaian immigrants, but the methods we use in studying these populations are such that it can be generalizable. So even though I'm showing you data for Ghanaians, it is a representation of other African immigrants. So this is a very famous study, research. It's known as the Rodham study. People who have been following me know that I talk about it a lot. So it's the most comprehensive study that has focused on African immigrants. So what they did is they looked at Ghanaians in London, Ghanaians in Amsterdam, Ghanaians in Berlin, and then compared them with Ghanaians who were living in Ghana and rural Ghana and urban Ghana. So in all, they had like over 6,000 people they recruited. They followed these people up for a while. I used part of this data when I was doing my PhD. Now, in terms of obesity, this is how it looks like. This is a prevalence of obesity among Ghanaians. I'll take my time and explain this. So this A is men and B is female. So if you look at this red one, it is looking at the obesity prevalence for Ghanaians in London. It says 21%. What that means is that if you take every 100 Ghanaian men, 21 of them or 22 of them were obese. Now compare that to Ghanaians in Amsterdam, which is 18, Ghanaians in Berlin, which is 14, and then compare that to rural Ghana and urban Ghana. So people who were in urban Ghana was just 6 out of 100, and then rural Ghana had the lowest. Look at women. It was much, much higher. So again, Ghanaian women living in London, if you took every 100 Ghanaian women, over half of them, so 54% is, so 54 out of 100 were obese. Compare that to Ghanaians living in rural Ghana and Ghanaians living in urban Ghana. Now, let me throw this question to people on the call. What does this tell you? If you look at the prevalence, what comes to mind? From what I just shared with you, what comes to mind if you had to compare the prevalence of obesity amongst the same group of people, but in different settings or context, different geographical context?
I suppose they are less active than in Africa. In Africa, the weather is such that they outside, they work a lot. Here,
okay, so
big city, less active, and eating the same diet, which might be a bit more too fat, I suppose.
Okay. So you've gone a step further to try and explain it. But even before explaining what might be happening, what did you think about the prevalence? Which people had the highest prevalence? What's happening in that graph that I showed?
Well, in London, we are the worst. I think people don't cook because they work too long hours in London.
Okay, but you picked on the fact that the people in London, so the people in the UK had the highest prevalence of overweight and obesity.
They eat outside instead of cooking fresh food.
Okay, so you're trying to explain why you think that's the case. Thank you, Slyvia. Okay. Anyone, thank you. That's a good point. Anyone else has any thoughts on that, on the graph that I showed? What do you think is happening? Clearly, people in the UK had the highest prevalence of overweight and obesity as compared to, people living in Ghana. So when people migrate, something happens, because these are the same, and that is why the study was a homogeneous study. Like it studied the same kinds of people, so they were comparable, same, age range and all of that. And they realized that, after migration, something was happening. Anyone has any thoughts on what could be?
Can I speak? I mean, obviously, I'm from Caribbean descent, so
Yes.
I can only speak about Caribbean.
Yeah.
And what I do know is that a lot of Caribbean people, not the young people, but maybe older people, and some young people, they do tend to eat Caribbean food.
Yeah.
And obviously, in the Caribbean, we eat that food, and it's probably okay because, as somebody said, it's warmer climate. We walk a lot. We do. But here it's a different climate. We're not as mobile. We don't burn it off. It's just a different metabolism, the way our metabolism works. So we carry on eating the same food as we did when we were in the Caribbean. And that doesn't help. We have to recognize that we're living in a different environment.
Yeah.
We have different lifestyles.
Yeah.
And also, people living in this country from minority groups tend to be the most underprivileged, a lot of people with less disposable income.
Yeah.
So they don't necessarily tend to eat all the best foods.
Yes.
So all of that contributes. There's a lot of things that are added together.
Indeed.
To contribute to it.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Martha. I had something in the chat box. I'm just going to read it out. And Adra says, work patterns, non-availability and expense of Afro-Caribbean foodstuffs, pick up bad food habits, takeaways, etc. Yes, all of those things count. Now, I'm just going to share my findings. So what we know, all of the stuff you've talked about are right, but I'll come back to the Afro-Caribbean foods. Just let me share this particular slide about how we've categorized the factors that could be contributing to this. So some of the things Martha talked about are in here. So where is slideshow? Things that we already know. So lifestyle changes, so alcohol use, dietary changes, someone talked about the fact that people are more active in Africa and all of that, psychosocial stress. So let's not forget, when we talk about these NCDs, so non-communicable diseases, overweight and obesity, hypertension, yes, lifestyle plays a huge role, but there are other factors, so when people migrate, there's a lot of psychosocial stress that is related to migration. People, especially people from Africa, first generation migrants, unlike, I think the Caribbeans might have been more settled. So people trying to get their immigration sorted, all of these causes stress. And this stress has been associated with these conditions I'm talking about. There's something called acculturation. So just adaptation of the lifestyle here, the culture here, access to healthcare. There are people within our community who would never go and see a GP. They're just too busy working, so all of that. Then epigenetics. So epigenetics has to do with our genes, as you know. So there's a new science that says that the nature of our genes coupled with the environment, the interaction between our genes and the environment predisposes us to some of these conditions. So it's multifaceted. The factors are a lot and it is very complex. Some of them we cannot do anything about. You can't do anything about your genes. You can't do anything about, being Black. Just by being of African or Caribbean origin, more susceptible to getting these things. You can't do anything about it, but you can do something about lifestyle. You can do something about dietary changes. You can do something about alcohol use. These are what we refer to as the modifiable factors. And that's why during Healthy Hearts, we tend to focus on these. If we already have a high chance, what can we do to reduce this risk as Black people? Okay. Let's move on. And please feel free to stop me and ask me any questions as I go along. As I said, I want this to be interactive. So I just shared the slide for overweight and obesity. This is for type 2 diabetes. And it is not any different from what I shared earlier on, except this time the prevalence was higher amongst men. So again, based on this research, you can tell that Ghanaian men in London, Amsterdam, and Berlin have a higher prevalence of type 2 diabetes as compared to those living back in Africa. And we've talked about some of the possible reasons why this is the case. Why should we care? I don't think I need to talk about it. This is what is spoken about every Saturday. We know why we should care about this. Now, so let's talk about our diet, which is something we have control over, which is something we talk about every day. Another question I have. So if we do know all this, we do know the challenges we are facing, we do know what we are not doing right, how can we improve our diets? Let me stop sharing and then let's hear from people. What can we do to change the situation? How can we have healthier diets? What can we do as a community to have healthier diets? Yes, please.
Education.
Education, okay.
People need to be educated to change their habits.
Thank you, Martha.
It's very difficult to do it on your own.
It's difficult to do on your own. Yes. Let me throw this question again. And this is not to you, Martha. There's a lot of education going on. This is to everyone else. Are we making those changes? There's a lot of nutrition education out there. I mean, we've done a lot of education here for the past 2 to 3 years. Do you think as a community, we are making those changes?
People are, but it's really difficult if you are, you know, you touched on before about people living in stressful situations and not without a lot of resources in terms of I mean, we're living at the moment, for example, with the financial situation that most people are facing. Yeah. If you're in, if you're not earning a lot of money and you've got a family, it's very difficult to think out the box to make the choices about food, because you can eat very healthy and you can eat and you can live very healthy without a lot of money, but but you do have to put a lot more resources into doing it. And it's something you have to learn to do, and it's a habit and a lifestyle that you've got to develop.
Indeed, Martha. Thank you so much. You're just spot on with that. Ajwa says we are work in progress. Thank you. Shekinah says not really. A lot of people are used to their usual eating habits. Even if they want to change, it can be hard. I agree with you 100%, Shekinah. Yeah. And I have, yes, Sylvia, did you want to come in here?
Yes, before? I was going to say what Shekinah said. Like, I totally agree with this, because there are lots of people who are already struggling with, they're used to how they used to eat before. And then now when you tell them to change, they tend to always struggle with that. So I totally agree with this.
Thank you. I agree as well. Having said that, that point about, you know, socioeconomic status, people not having enough money to buy healthy foods is also valid, but then this is equally valid. And I have evidence to show that people just don't want to change their dietary habits. I'm going to share some more findings and then we can go on with the discussion. So this is research that I did in Manchester. So this time is not from London. This is from Manchester, and I'm going to share the findings. So the question is, what is the evidence of our dietary intake or dietary patterns? So I looked at our foods, you know, so staples, plantain, what else did I look at? Rice, bread, cereal, pasta, and all of that. This data came from that research that I spoke to you about, Rodam. So they had collected, sorry, I'm messing up things. So this is not the Manchester study. This is still from the Rodam study. I'll share the Manchester study after this one. So we looked at people's daily intake. We wanted to compare what people were eating here after migration with what people were eating back in Africa. Now, if you look at this, the red one represents people's intake in Europe, and this one represents people's intake in Ghana. You realize that when people come to Europe, they still consume plantains, roots, and tubers. But as compared to people in Ghana, they had more plantain, roots, and tubers. The point I want to make with this is that people don't change entirely, and all of you here would bear witness that, especially people from West Africa, they still continue to eat their foods. And that's why when Shekinah said people are used to the way they eat and they struggle to change, I was like, let me share this evidence. People, look at the intake of rice. It was almost similar. Ghanaians in Ghana and Ghanaians in Europe, we kind of all eat a lot of rice dishes. Bread intake was much higher for people in Europe as compared to people in Ghana. Now, let me show something that is more important to us. Look at the intake of fish. You realize that, and look at the intake of red meat and processed meat. So this where I hope you can see the cursor, Sylvia, when I put it out. Okay. So people in Ghana, which is this one, tend to consume more fish than migrants, African migrants. So when people move here, they reduce their intake of fish, and then they tend to increase their intake of red meat and processed meats. It's the same as poultry, so we take more animal products and then we take less of fish and other protein sources. Let me show you another category. So the first one I showed you was a staple. Then the second one has to do with our protein intake. Now, let me show you a third group of foods we call accessory foods. So accessory foods are all the sugary drinks, alcohol, cakes, sweets, and things like that. Again, this is for migrants. If you look at the migrant intake, this blue part of the chart represents sugary drinks. So based on the analysis we did, you realize that migrants tend to take more sugary drinks as compared to people living in Africa. And then similarly, we tend to take more cakes. So 31% of what we're taking was cakes, sweets, and spreads as compared to people living in Africa. Now, let me just summarize all of these numbers I'm talking about. So in summary, what I'm saying based on that research is plantain, roots, and tubers and rice are still consumed by African migrants, even though bread and cereal was consumed more. Now, there was a shift from a fish-based diet amongst people in Ghana to a more meat-based diet in Europe. And then there's also evidence that there's more intake of cakes, sweets, spreads, alcohol, and sugar-sweetened drinks, sugar-sweetened beverages among migrants as compared to people living in Africa. I'll stop sharing for a minute. Want to hear people's thoughts on what I've just shared.
Your data, Dr. Hibbah, is very valid. And yes, and I can say that, yes, that is actually very true. Because why I feel, so for the fish one, I feel is because when we come over here, fish is more pricey.
Yeah,
it's more expensive. So people tend to go for the cheaper option, chicken. When I moved, I know that I had chicken for like almost 5 months and I got tired because normally in Africa, I would not eat chicken that much. So I think that's the struggle. The fact that fish is always quite pricey, is more expensive. So it's a luxury for us here. If you're buying fish, they must have really paid you.
You must have money.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Now, the same thing too for, if we go to the accessory foods, cakes, sweets, sugar, it's everywhere. We smell it in the air, we see it. And then you know how our senses work. Before we eat, you smell first. And then you're triggered and things like that. So it's everywhere. Even most times when you try as much as possible to resist the urge and say, okay, you know what, I won't eat that much. It's still everywhere. Unlike in Africa, where it was a luxury. In Africa, you only buy it or you only have such things on an occasion and things like that. So I think that's the issue. But then for the fruits, I'm surprised that the fruits was a bit it reduced, because for me coming here, I think my fruit intake actually did increase.
Increased for you.
Because for me, because there are a lot of fruits that I didn't have in Africa, or that were quite pricey and expensive in Africa, and I came here and it was more affordable. So fruit intake kind of increased for me too.
For you. Well, as I said, even though it's generalizable, this is a Ghanaian study. So it was basically people from Ghana. It might be that Ghanaian migrants are still not having enough fruits. I really can't tell. But thank you, Slyvia, for validating that study. I want to hear other people's thoughts on that. People who are migrants here, is this a reflection of the way we eat? Let me hear you. I mean, you don't have to be a first generation migrant. And like Martha said, even though Martha is of Caribbean origin, this represents all of us. It's not just for Ghanaians. This represents, we tend to have similar eating patterns. But I want to know, Salima, you have your hand up, please. Let me hear you. Yes, please.
I wanted to say, because of the weather, we tend to be less active, and we tend to look for comfort food. This is why we look for food with more fat and more sugar. I think compared to some countries, I mean, personally, I'm North African, but I'm from France, and I've noticed as well that the cake are more sugary here. Everything I look like I buy hot chocolate for my daughters. There's more sugar than in France. Some yogurt, you'd be surprised how much sugar. I come to know that even children's food have sugar. It's unreal, like baby food, like I mean, back in France, we used to give like vegetable juice and to introduce vegetables to children and the taste. But here they have so much sugar on vegetable juice, on fruit juice, and they say like vitamin C, calcium, but you're eating sugar and you're training your child to eat sugar. So it's very, I think we don't know that all this hidden sugar in our food here in London, especially.
Yeah, thank you, Salima. Thank you so much. And I was going to show that in another slide. So you what you are talking about is what we describe as the obesogenic environment. So we live in an environment that promotes unhealthy eating. Like you said, everything around us has sugar. So when you're talking about the high intake of sugar and then all those accessory foods, yes, we are surrounded by that. And so people kind of struggle to be able to make healthier choices, dietary choices. Thank you so much. Anyone else who hasn't spoken? What are your thoughts on the dietary pattern data that I showed? Do we have anybody has thoughts to explain? Let's see. I think I see something in the chat. Salima has shared her thoughts with us. Slyvia has validated our study. Anyone else has anything to? Where's the chat? It's just vanished. To share on our dietary patterns. Otherwise, we move on to. Are people comfort eating in winter? Yes. So Salima, that's the point you made. Okay.
Oh, I had another point. Back home, we used to grow our vegetables as well. And when you grow your vegetable, you have a contact with the earth and everything. You go through the process. So you take care of the vegetables. They're fresh. They're nicer, nutritionally. Like in England, sometimes in London, especially, we live in flats. We don't have places to grow our veg, or it's very expensive to have allotment. So people are, buying what they find and it's not always good quality. But I love that.
It's the best.
Yeah, there's still market, and the fish can be bought frozen as well for those who like fish.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you. So Salima has also provided us with some tips. Thank you so much, Salima. Okay, so I still have a couple of slides. We've looked at our dietary patterns. We looked at those plates, and you helped me identify which ones were not the healthiest. Today's session had to do with the mistakes we are making. So this is another question. We've talked about a couple of things. Can you think about other mistakes we're making when it comes to our diets? What else do you think we are not doing right? before I share my slides. So we've talked about the portion sizes. We talked about not having the vegetables. What else do you think, we need to work on as a community when it comes to our diet? People can put in the chat box. There's a lot we don't do right. A lot.
We don't eat enough pulses.
We don't eat enough pulses. True. Thank you so much. Yes, we don't eat enough pulses. You are very right. Now, having said that, so the study that I did in Greater Manchester, I wanted to understand why people were consuming, and Slyvia just validated a lot of the things people said. The fact that fish is more expensive in the UK, but then there were interesting findings as well. So people said that growing up, they felt like, just like Slyvia said, they had missed out on these status foods. So depending on where you come from, chicken and all of these, what we describe as junk food here, is associated with status. I mean, even up till today, you go to some of the capital cities in Africa and you see people going to celebrate birthdays in fast food joints or restaurants, KFC, so people come here with that mentality, and because chicken is really cheaper here and all of those junk food are now really cheap, they tend to just eat sugary drinks as well, because growing up, it wasn't a luxury. People could only have that when there was an occasion, when it was Christmas, when it was birthdays and things like that. So, people tell their stories, and it just has to do with, how people have grown up and people wanting to now make up for lost time. Okay, so back to my question. What other mistakes are we making? Before I show, there's one that nobody has mentioned, very common one that is associated with hypertension.
Too much salt.
Too much salt. Thank you. Too much salt. Do you know what the recommendation is for salt? We're supposed to have maximum amount of salt in a day. Anyone knows the recommendation?
I remember it's not a lot.
It's not a lot. It's not a lot. Can anyone remember? A pinch. Okay, a pinch. What is a pinch? Can you quantify that for me? 1 teaspoon. Thank you. 6 grams in the UK. WHO recommends 5 grams. In the UK, it's 6 grams. So we are not supposed to have more than 6 grams. Now, let me share my slide and I'll let you give me your thoughts on this. So salt is one of our biggest challenges as a community. So, yes, one of our biggest challenge is our intake of salt. And thank you for the one who said 1 teaspoon. So yes. Now, having said that, even that is for, 11 years and above. So for infants, it's actually supposed to be less than 1 gram. Well, as an infant, you don't have any business even putting any salt into their food because they are expected to feed on breast milk. For children, 6 to 12 months, 1 gram, and 1 gram. If 6 grams is 1 teaspoon, then you can imagine what 1 gram looks like. So for children, it's supposed to be really small, but 11 years and above, your intake for the day is not supposed to be more than 6 grams. Now, I'll show you how much we are having. So I like to share this a lot. So people who have followed some of my talks know this already. So this is a plate of rice and beans, Ghanaian dish. So this study was conducted in London. They just randomly picked some foods in London, analyzed it for the salt intake. This plate contained 12 grams of salt. So the whole thing when they analyzed it. This is a plate. Second one is a plate of jollof rice and chicken. It contained 8.6 grams of salt. Then this is a Caribbean one. So rice and peas that also contained 7.6 grams of salt. Now, what did I say the recommendation for the day should be?
6 grams.
6 grams. Based on how we eat, some of us would have this for lunch, have this for dinner, and then maybe have a cup, most of us will just have something light in the morning. How much of salt are we consuming?
We're consuming a huge amount, because if you're putting salt in your meals when you cook it, and then you're eating out, even if you just eat anything out. I mean, I don't like eating out because I don't have salt, and if I go out, I just drink loads. I have to drink loads of water. Because it makes me thirsty. So everything you eat has got salt in it. So you don't need to put any salt in your food at all.
Exactly. But Martha, do you think that is possible for our community? Everything we eat has sodium. Basically, everything we eat has sodium. So even those ones that are not so obvious, like, bread, the ketchup, everything that we buy has already got salt in it. Why is it that everything we buy has salt in there? Let me stop sharing. Why do you think everything has salt in there? What's salt doing in there?
Make it taste good. Otherwise, it doesn't taste good.
Tastes good. And what else? It also has another function, salt in all of preservative.
Preserve it.
Yes. It makes you hungry for more. Yes, I like that, David. So salt does play an important role. So, a lot of those products cannot go without salt. So ideally, we shouldn't even be putting in salt, but as a community. So studies have shown that for people in the UK, about 80% of the salt they consume comes from the stuff that they buy, processed foods and all of that. But for us as African and Caribbean people, studies show that the salt we take comes from our cooking. So I like to make this comparison. For the wider population, they kind of cannot do much about it. It is just what is available, and that's really, if you can relate, people from our community tend to say that white people's food doesn't taste good. I've heard a lot of people say that. That's because they don't put too much salt and all of that, But then the evidence shows that with us, African and Caribbean people, we tend to put in the salt. In addition to eating the breads and the ketchup and everything else, we tend to put in salt in whatever we are cooking. Now, I wanted to show you a few examples. So yes, these are some of the stuff that are loaded with lots of salt. So all these processed foods, bread, cereal, everything like that has salt already. And as I mentioned, a lot of the foods we eat has naturally occurring sodium in there, that ideally we shouldn't be adding much to it. Now, who can recognize this? What is this? Or any people from West Africa know this. What is this one?
It's salted fish.
It's salted fish. What is this?
So it's cured meat.
It's cured meat packed with salt. And this, which people would you associate this with?
My husband is from Mauritius, so he eats for salted fish, but not the rest.
Not the rest. Okay, but what about this third one here, down here? Which population group are known to like this? Yeah,
I would say Caribbean. I mean,
Caribbean.
It's from America. It's fried chicken, so it's Kentucky.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, and this is typical of our everyday diet. Okay, so a health survey in England found that 83% of Black men and 85% of Black women added salt in cooking. Over a quarter of the same population added salt at the table. So some people, even after cooking everything at the table, they'll still have to add salt to taste. Yes. Someone says KFC, US, Blacks. Yes, it's black. So Blacks are just, it's like we can't do away with salt, even though we do know how much salt has been associated with hypertension and other NCDs. And do you
actually, I have to say Asian as well, South Asian, they eat a lot.
South Asians as well.
Although you eat spicy and the spice should give the flavor, but they still
Yes. It's just, I think we just get used to it. We grew up like that. And so our taste buds just get used to it. And then we cannot. So people from West Africa, apologies to my Caribbean friends that I keep using the West African dishes because I know those ones very well. They are some of the staples we cook without salt. So fufu, what else? What else do we cook without salt? Fufu is for Ghana. Sylvia, Nigeria, what do they cook without salt? So
I don't.
you don't
I
know.
don't think. I'm trying to think. I don't think there's any Nigerian dish that we cook without salt.
Maybe
Maybe pounded
white
yam,
rice.
which is also like fufu.
Okay.
Plain steamed white rice.
Oh, where are you from? You are from North Africa. You don't add salt to that?
No, never.
Okay. So Ghanaians,
we steam the rice, the
Nigerians,
basmati. We steam
right.
basmati. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's a good
No,
habit.
I'm talking of my husband more, the Mauritian, because us we eat couscous. I mean, North
Right,
African, they eat lots of vegetables and like cereal. It's quite healthy actually, where I come from.
Right. Oh, that's interesting. I'll have to look more into the evidence from that part of Africa as well, because West Africans, almost every staple has to have salt in it. But I like to compare, rice with fufu that I know people do not add salt to, because you're having it with a soup that is heavily spiced, So I'm like, if we can eat fufu with our soups and stews without salt, then why can we not have rice? I mean, other people are having rice without salt. The yams and the plantain. Almost everybody I know adds a bit of salt to their staple. And this staple is going to be eaten with a sauce or a soup that is heavily spiced, already has salt. Okay, I didn't realize I only had 3 more minutes to go. So I have to kind of wrap up my session. Well, I haven't finished talking about the mistakes, so I might have to come back next week and continue. So we started with the portion sizes. I talked about salt. We've talked about a lot of stuff, but we still have a couple to go through. And so yes, I just lost track of time, and so I apologize. I think we have to have a part 2 so that I can finish going through my slides. I still have to show you all the other challenges and then also share what the evidence is saying with regards to factors causing this. Some of them you've already mentioned, but it's always good to share some scientific evidence as well. So what is causing this? What are the challenges? And what's the way forward for us? How can we reverse some of these things that we've done for years and is ingrained in our behaviors and our habits? So on this note, I would like to hand it over to Slyvia. Thank you so much for the engagement. I promise we'll have a part 2 next week, and then we'll finish talking about the mistakes, look at the reasons or the factors that have been associated with these behaviors or these mistakes, and then look at some ways of trying to turn things around, if possible.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hibbah. That was a beautiful session. Definitely, we need a part 2, because in as much as we need to run through the other challenges that we have, I think I would like to know, so what next? How do I deal with this challenge? And I'm sure that's something that's on everybody's mind. How do we deal with this challenge at the end of the day? So hopefully next week we can have this as a part 2 and just conclude on that. Thank you so much, Dr. Hibbah. Does anyone have any question or anything they'd like to clarify? Just 1 or 2 because of our time.
Next week is what day, please?
It's the
24th.
Yeah, 24th.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. Thanks, Adjoa. Yes, we needed this to be able to start the year on a good note. Yes. Is there anything? So Slyvia, I hear your question about what next. Is there anything anyone else wants to know so that I can add it to next week's presentation with regards to these challenges? Any specific thing on your mind, and then I can add it to my presentation next week with regards to the challenges.
With regards to your dietary challenges, any dietary challenge you're having issues with.
Okay. If not,
okay.
And continue.
Yeah. So Dr. Hibbah, any closing words before I hand over to Orlando?
So I just want to say thank you so much to everyone for the engagement. As I said, I didn't want it to be just a lecture. I wanted to hear from everyone, and everyone contributed. So thank you so much. We'll continue this conversation next week. And I hope that by reminding us and thinking through some of the things we do, it's the first step for us to be able to make these changes, creating the awareness and then looking into what might be causing these dietary challenges it would be like set the scene for us to start thinking about ways we can make these sustainable changes in the coming year. So thank you everyone for your engagement, and I hope to see you next week at the same time.
Yes, thank you everyone. See you all next week. So I'm just going to hand over to Orlando now. Hello, Orlando.
Thank you. Hello and welcome to tonight's Healthy Hearts fitness session. As promised, we have a light conditioning circuit coming your way. So for today's session, all you need is a space, plenty of water, a source of fresh air, and no mat is needed for today. And also you can bring some weights in. So if you've got any weights, cans of beans, dumbbells, kettlebells, you can bring them in to enhance some of the exercises that we do tonight. But like I said, as promised, it's a light conditioning circuit, trying to get us back into the swing of things after the Christmas and New Year's break. All right, so we're going to start off with 30 seconds of star jumps. Just turn my tunes back. So 30 seconds of star jumps. So if everyone can get to their space, let's get ready. Let's get right into the session. All right, get ready. 3, 2, 1, go. Star jumps. Let's go. Keep that going, people. Keep that going. 3, 2, 1. Next one, we got reach across. Reach right across. Let's go. Turn those hips. Stretch the lats. Back. Keep that going, people. 4, 3, 2, 1. Back to star jump. Let's go. Keep that going, people. That's 50 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Back to reach across. That's it, people. Keep that going. Keep that pace. 15 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, give yourself a 15-second breather. Take a couple of sips of water. And then we'll get back into the warm-up. And 5 seconds, we're going back in. We're going to start with a squat down. Touch the floor with your palms. All right, let's go. 2, 1, go. Go, people. Three, 2, 1. Let's go. Side steps. Keep that going. 10 seconds. that going. That's 15. Whoa, quality time there, people. 20-second water break. And then we're going to go straight into round number 1. All right, people, back to your spaces. Listen in now. All right, so going into round number 1. We've got 2 rounds to do today, 4 exercises per round. I want you to be working at a 5 out of 10. So like I explained last week, 1 being sat on the couch watching TV, and 10 being the hardest you've ever worked in your life. You want to work around a 5 or 6. All right, 5 or 6. If you can push yourself a little harder, then push yourself as hard as you can, depending on your fitness levels. Or if not, stay at around the 5 or 6. All right, so first move, we're going to do march in place. We're simply here. So get the knees as high as you can. Keep a nice solid pace and stay there. All right, 60 seconds. From there, we've got dumbbell curl plus run. So we're going to be here on our toes. And as we're tapping, we're going to be curling the arms, nice and strong. You can bring your weights in if you want, your dumbbells or whatever you have. We're running here, curling at the same time. All right, nice and strong. So we're going from the march, knees nice and high, to run and curl. 60 seconds apiece, we'll break in between. All right, people, let's get ready. Let's get straight into round number 1. Starting off with the march. All right, get ready, people. Round number 1. Let's get started. Start with the march. Get ready. 3, 2, 1. Let's march. Get nice and high. Keep that going, people. Find your pace. Stay at that pace. Nice and strong. Core engaged. Last 15. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, 15-second break. Couple of sips of water if you need it. They're quick. Curl, run in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Keep that going, people. Halfway. $15 seconds. That's 10. rest for 20. So while you're taking your sips of water, listening, exercises 3 and 4 to finish the round. So exercise number 3, we're going to step back and punch. All right, so we're nice and balanced. Step back with the leg, punch with the same hand. Like that. Step back, punch. All right, same leg, same arm. From there, get your skiing poles ready. We're going to go skiing to finish the round. So we're going to start the shoulders nice and high. I'm going to push down nice and strong, just like we're skiing on the slopes. All right, nice and strong. Come down, bend the knees, explode back up. All right, really put some force and drive through the upper body as you ski. All right, we're going to try and replicate those ski slopes. All right, so from step back and punch, bam, bam, to skiing. Finish the round. Let's go, people. Last 2 moves. 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Step back and punch. So find your pace. Cardio conditioning. Find your pace and stay at that pace for 60 seconds. Keep that going, people. That's 15 seconds. Last 10. 3, 2, 1. Take your 15-second break. Get both ready, get ready for skiing. In 3, 2, 1. Let's go skiing. Keep that going, my people. Not halfway. Keep it going. "15 seconds. 3, 2, 1. That's time. Put those ski poles down. Give yourself a 30-second break. Get some water. Take those deep breaths. Okay, coming back in round 2. All right, people, let's get into round number 2. All right, so first 2 moves coming your way. First move, we've got lateral step to star jump. So we're going to go here for 2, and then we can either go there or we can jump. Okay, lateral step, lateral step, or we're going to go here, lateral step, just the arms. Okay, you choose. So you either do a full star jump with the jump, Just raise the arms above the head. From there, we've got kettlebell swings. All right, so we're going to be here between the legs, keeping the hands above the knee, and we're going to swing forward. Nice and strong. Okay, again, utilize your weights. Utilize your weights or whatever you have with you for both moves. So over here, you can have your weights here. 2, pop with the weights. 2, pop with the weights. All right, or with the kettlebell swings, you can be here with the weight and swing it nice and high above the head. All right, again, 60 seconds apiece. It's game time, people. Let's work now. Okay, so start off with a lateral step to star jump. Get ready, 3, 2, 1, go. That's it, people. Work it now. Go ahead. 30 seconds gone. Keep going, people. Five, 2, 1. Rest for 15. Remember, we've got kettlebell swings coming up next. Kettlebell swings, get ready in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Seconds. Last 10. 2, 1. Rest for 20. And again, listen in. The moves 3 and 4. Okay, so first move, we've got lateral steps. So we're going to be here, step and bend. But what we're going to do, we're going to stay on one side at a time for 30 seconds apiece. So we're going to be here, step and bend. Step and bend for 30, and then we'll change sides. And last move, move number 4. So legs nice and wide. I'm going to squat down. I'm going to kick diagonally. Squat down, kick. Oh, I lost my balance there. Squat down, kick. Squat down, kick. Squat down, kick. Squat down, kick. All right, the last 2 moves coming your way, people. So first of all, side step. And then wide squats with that kick. Kick back. All right, people, 60 seconds apiece. Let's get ready. All right, people, let's get ready. Let's start in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Side steps. Change sides. Yeah. 15 seconds. Three, two, one, and rest for 15. Last move coming up. Squat to kick back. Get yourself ready, people. 3, 2, 1, let's go. Yeah. See, keep going, people. Halfway, 30 seconds. Keep squatting, keep kicking back. Last 10. 3, 2, 1, and time, people. Well done. So take a quick 20-second water break, and then we'll cool down and stretch off. Okay, people, bring it back to the center. Let's start our cool down with our neck going side to side. Let's go. Ear to shoulder. Front to back. Okay, single arm circles. And backwards. Change arms. And backwards. Okay, next one we've got quarter squat. Kick forward, stretch those legs nice and long. Okay, next one. Start on either side, 1 foot forward, stretch that leg nice and far back, and hold. Change legs. Okay, next one, legs apart, hip rotations. Change direction. Front to back. Okay. Arm in front of the chest. Pull beside the elbow. Get the stretch in your shoulders. Same arm behind the head. Pull down. Change arms. Same arm behind the head. Shake it all off. Now it's time, people. Very well done to everybody who got involved today. Is Shekinah on the call?
Hi, Orlando. Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Thank you so much for that session. Very engaging. You guys can use the chat box to let us know how you found that exercise session. And Orlando, what will we be expecting for next week?
Yep, so now we've had our 2 weeks warm up, should I say. We're back after Christmas. We've shaken off those cobwebs. We're going to go straight into boxercise. So we've got a 4-week block of boxercise next. So again, we're going to have some fun, burn fat, learn some punching combinations, and learn some defensive techniques. All while having fun. Let's say it again.
Yeah. All while having fun, all while being engaging as well. So guys, come on next week. So that's Healthy Hearts. That is from 6 to 7:30. So we'll also have our nutrition talk before Orlando takes over for that boxercise session. So, and if you guys have any questions, make sure to let us know at health@CAHN.org.uk so you can email us. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Have a good rest
where
of
are
the
you?
week.
Are you in San Francisco?
No. No, I'm currently still in Ghana, so I'll be back in the UK for next week. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, take care, people.
All right then.
Thank you, everybody.
Everyone.
Well done. Bye.
Bye.